The Vietnam War was an era in which a lack of patriotism was evident. Veterans were disregarded for their sacrifice despite their selflessness, courage, and willingness to answer the call to duty to preserve freedom.
They blamed the veterans, the soldiers and Marines, each of us. They blamed us for a war that wasn't our fault. We were just doing our duty.
They didn't ignore the veterans that came back. They actually mistreated them. I mean, they would come off the airplanes in civilian airports and they would be spat upon. They'd be called baby killers. Their uniforms, if they were wearing their uniforms, were ripped off their backs. They were told basically not to if they could avoid. So here's somebody who spent the last year in combat serving their country, coming back and being told, you know, you're a bunch of baby killers or just horrible people.
My country called me, and I was willing to go. I knew there was a great need, and I hated to leave family, but I was willing to go because, I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew that my country needed me.
Their sacrifice is something never diminished by time. Although they may have faced hatred upon their arrival home, it is not too late today to express our gratitude for their sacrifice. Youth volunteers at the Veterans Hospital have a unique, first-hand understanding of this concept that gives hope of a united America with a bridge built between the generational gap.
Vietnam veterans are really special to be able to serve because whenever they were in the service, they weren't always respected the way that we wish they were. And so it's my opportunity to say thank you to them and to give them that thank you that they didn't get to hear at the time of their war, so that way they know that their service was valued and that we are appreciative for what they did for our country, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have the rights and the liberties and the chances to live freely that we do today.
So many of them never got the respect that they deserved. But now I feel like we have a chance to do that. We have an opportunity to respect them.
I love getting the chance to visit with them and hear what their experiences were like, and to really just gain a piece of knowledge from them, because what they have is so much more valuable than anything I'm ever going to be able to receive from a textbook.
America would not be the nation as we know it today without each and every one of these American heroes who have defined patriotism and heroism unlike any other. We must never forget their sacrifice.
To give away what they gave away, time in their lives, and to fight for other people, I mean, I feel like there's no better word to describe someone who does that than a hero. Even though you're not their child or you're not their brother or sister, they are willing to lay down their lives for people they don't even know. And I think that it's amazing, and I think it's a crime, the way that some people treat veterans, but I don't think that there's nothing we can do about that.
We need to understand where our freedom has come from and why it is that we have to have a strong military to defend ourselves and to keep freedom available. We're only one generation from losing that if we're not careful.
Hello and welcome to the Fayetteville High School Veterans Day Assembly. We appreciate each and every one of you giving up your time to be here today and to honor our veterans, America's greatest heroes. And to our guests, especially our veterans, welcome to FHS.
The United States flag is considered to be a living symbol representing our country. It represents the freedom granted to us by our founding forefathers and the freedom that our veterans have fought for. Our flag deserves respect and honor, and proper flag etiquette should always be used in the flag's presence. We are thankful for the representatives from Boy Scouts Troop 46 for coming to present the colors, along with the troops from 102 for helping say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please welcome them along with Madison Marsh for the national anthem and stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Color guard attention, audience attention. Audience, please rise. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Post the colors. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard about the face. Return to ranks. Color guard halt. About face. Color guard at ease. Audience at ease.
Mr. Darrell Horn is a Vietnam War veteran. He served in the Marine Corps from 1966 to 1968. He received a Purple Heart and Combat Action Medal for his actions and wounds received during Operation Buffalo and a Presidential Unit Citation. He's married to his high school sweetheart, Marilyn Buchanan Horn, and together they volunteer at the Veterans Healthcare System of the Ozarks. He is here today to share with us the history of Veterans Day.
When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner almost 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were then. Throughout this nation's history, America's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggression. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American servicemen who have died in battle, or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the 25 million veterans still living today. These words are inscribed on the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met. Those words apply equally to many of our World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and Gulf War veterans as well. They apply to today's active duty service members and tomorrow's veterans who are helping to maintain
peace throughout the world. Today is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay for it. Today we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darrell. Veterans Day is very special, especially for those who are veterans or who have loved ones who are. Amani Wilson is a son of 2 military parents. He is a junior at FHS, and he is here to share with us what Veterans Day means to him.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank you guys for all being here and thank the veterans who came and thank them for their service. As she said, my name is Amani Wilson, and I both have 2 parents who have both served and one who is still serving. My father has been in the military for over 2 decades now, and my mother, she served for 4 years. The importance of Veterans Day to me has always been that there have been those who have sacrificed for this country, sacrificed for our home, sacrificed for our liberties, and that it is important for us to acknowledge that sacrifice and recognize those who have done. For me personally, my father, I know that he has missed out times that he can never get back because he was out sacrificing for his country. He wasn't there for my brother's birth. That's his firstborn. Wasn't there. It wasn't because he wasn't a good father. It wasn't because he was a neglectful father. It was because he was deployed. And yes, a lot of people don't have the privilege of having a father, and let alone a father there for their birth. But he wasn't there because he was serving us and protecting our country. See, sacrifices get made like that every day. People don't get to see their children grow up for parts of their lives. My father right now, he's actually in Ohio. He is stationed up there as a recruiter. He would like to be here, but he can't. I'm down here with my family because we're all waiting for me to finish high school. But my father would actually like to be here to see me go through high school and finish. I mean, of course, he'll be here for my graduation, but he's missing out on valuable time that he can't have with his children. And I'm not telling you all this so that you can feel bad for enjoying the liberties that those who have fought for you to have and protected. I'm saying this because it's important to recognize that those people have sacrificed and those people have put things on the line so that we can have the freedoms and liberties that we have today. And I personally treat Veterans Day as a chance and an opportunity to recognize those who have put a lot of things on the line for us. And I know that a lot of people have different political stances right now, and whatever stance you have in there, I think that we can all agree that it's important to recognize our veterans, and it's important to appreciate what they've done for us.
Thank you, Amani. Today we are excited to have a very special keynote speaker. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Steve Gray is the former senior military and veterans advisor for Senator John Bozeman and then Congressman Asa Hutchinson. Prior to his 18 years there, he served in the United States Air Force for 24 years. He is a member of the Arkansas Veterans Coalition and past president of the local Military Officers Association of America, where he worked legislative issues for Arkansas veterans. He serves as the chairman of the Fayetteville National Cemetery Advisory Council, president of the Northwest Arkansas Veterans Day Association, and he is the Department of Arkansas American Legion Northwest Arkansas Vice Commander. He is the current president of the Fayetteville Lions Club, and he is a native of Glenville, Illinois, and is married to the former Sharon Lawrence, daughter of an Air Force pilot. Their daughter, Heather, was a captain in the Air Force where she served as a weapons controller. She is the wife of an Air Force officer stationed in Japan. Please welcome keynote speaker Steve Gray.
Thank you, Sarah. When I was asked to come speak a few months back, I had a decent voice. Some said it was radio ready. Now, I wish I had that voice back. My wife says I've got a sexy voice like Humphrey Bogart. Frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a hoot. I've tried many remedies, gargling, steroid shot, humidifiers, antihistamines, honey and tea. The best I found was just keeping quiet. My wife loves that because the phrases of silence is golden and you mean you're at a loss for words take on a different meaning. It's good to be back in Fayetteville High School again. First time I was here as we moved back from Germany. By the way, my wife is not here today on our anniversary. She's in Japan where my daughter is, and she's just come out successfully of an operation. It was a couple of years being away from renovated, so needless to say, the paint was chipping off the walls and the locker doors were falling off. Computers were old and the football stadium needed some work. When my daughter finally became a senior, she was looking forward to being able to park in the senior lot. Well, that's when the renovation started and the lot became a construction site. John 15, chapter 13. Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. In the military, that phrase can also be applied as willing to. The uniform I'm wearing, I've worn for 28 years if you count ROTC. One longer than the civilian work attire that I've worn. It is similar to those worn over the ages by millions of young American men and women who have epitomized that universal message, willing to. I was proud of it when I was wearing fatigues in Vietnam. When I was wearing my flight suit and I met Sharon, my wife, in Iceland, I was proud of it. I was proud of it when we got married and I wore my formal attire. I actually sang a John Denver song, Follow Me. When I was dealing with senior European and NATO military leaders, I was proud of that uniform. I was most proud of it when I commissioned my daughter. In 2001, up the street here at the University of Arkansas. This is a special week, one in which we pause and honor those who have and are still depending on our freedom around the world. This year we pay tribute to the Korean War veterans, but before we go there, let's go back in time. On November 11th, 99 years ago, 1918, at 2 minutes before 11 a.m., in a small town in France, an armistice or ceasefire was signed ending the Great War. This war had also been called the war to end all wars, or simply the war. No one could fathom losing 20 million people through machine gun fire, mustard gas, and other chemical warfare and disease. Troops lived in the stench of 6-foot deep mud trenches, which filled them with rain daily for days and weeks. It was horrific, and guess what? It wasn't even an American war. Germany had invaded the rest of Europe, and we were all asked to save it. What type of people would, though protected by 2 huge oceans, be willing to lose hundreds of thousands of lives at the cost of millions of dollars to rescue the Western world from oppression, barbarism, and totalitarianism? And we did it again in World War II, though then we were attacked ourselves. And when World War II ended, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazis, were summarily defeated, but not without 70 million lives being lost. Communism was feeling its oats, and China and the Soviet Union grabbed up countries left and right, just like in East Germany, which was split off from the West. Just think of what it would have been had we not set our expeditionary forces over in 1914, or our fighting forces over in 1942. Do you understand what it's like living under these kinds of rules? Whether we call it communism, socialism, fascism, it doesn't matter. people's lives are ruled by a very few. They are told where to work, usually forbidden to attend church, what the schools can teach, and have no freedom to vote. I saw this in East Berlin before the wall came down. I had a little bit to do with that. There's a piece of the Berlin Wall I knocked down that day. West Berlin was inside of East Germany and had been completely closed off until 1947, when the Berlin airlift occurred, and we opened it back up again. It had become, West Berlin was inside of East Germany. It had become bustling, vibrant, completely alive with commerce, people wearing modern clothes and had smiles on their faces as they moved to and fro from their workplaces. In East Berlin, where the Union of Soviet Socialists Republic, or the USSR, was in control, the soot was 2 feet high on the roofs of the dilapidated buildings, and the streets barely lit, and only sad faces peered out from behind the bland government-produced black and white clothing. There were men lurking on the street corners, eyeing every move behind their upturned coat collars, waiting to arrest anyone they deemed suspicious. Work was scarce, if existent at all. Only one car could be purchased, and it only could seat 3 adults. It came in 3 colors, and it could go 40 miles an hour. Because they didn't make too many of them, it took 9 years to get one. Their form of government, communism, and their form of economy, socialism. But let's return to the 1950s, just 5 years after the end of World War II. Both China and the Soviet Union decided to test the Western countries, and in particular the United States, to see if they had the stomach for another war. Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, had determined that a new leader in North Korea, Kim Il-sung, the grandfather of the present leader, Kim Jong-un, would be allowed to move South Korea. Uninvited and unwanted, South Korea had been separated from the North when the newly established United Nations saw it would not be allowed to hold free elections and would be taken over by the communists. Once again, not having been invaded itself, the United States, under President Truman and with a general officer born in Little Rock, General MacArthur, convinced the United Nations that action must be taken at the cost of 33,000 Americans, of which 525 were Arkansans. South Korea was spared from the most oppressive form of government imaginable. I challenge you to look at the night picture of Asia from the Hubble spacecraft telescope to see the stark difference between the North and the South. In North Korea, the vegetable most often eaten is grass. You are locked up if you say anything bad about the government, and lights go out at night, even in the factories, which are totally controlled by the government. Starvation is rampant, and as high as some third world countries. Why? Because the government controls everything. The death of an American college student in prison and recently released was due to the torture administered on him. I saw in today's newspaper, I encourage you to go see it, a letter about Korea. And it talked about the fact that all those nuclear tests that are taking place have caused the earth to crash, and hundreds of people have perished. And the people that were trying to get out of the country were pushed back. And it says this, I thought this was interesting. North Korea might not be able to feed its people or export products or create any kind of thriving economy, but it does know how to build prisons and how to stock them. In South Korea, just like in West Berlin, a vibrant economy with free elections and a strong Christian society have become the norm. While North Korea is still back in the 1940s, South Koreans can provide for their children with good education, jobs, and a bright future. South Korea is one of those top 10 countries economically and third in PACS. Last May, the South Korean Consulate General came here to honor several of those Americans who fought in South Korea. I truly hate to say this sometimes. I feel that the South Korean people are more appreciative of our military and their freedom than some Americans. We spared them from starvation. We saved them from despair. We saved them from a way of life that even animals would not survive. My wish is that you all study and learn what it means and what it takes to live in a free nation where what you are given is through your own abilities and desires, not by the government or your bloodline, where your success, happiness, and lot in life is dependent upon you, not on others, and certainly not dictated by the government. Remember, according to our founders, our rights are inalienable, which means given by our Creator. And they have been protected time and time again by those willing to don the nation's uniform and stand in the gap between you and those willing to do you harm. G.K. Chesterton, a renowned British journalist, poet, writer, and lay theologian, once said, "Soldiers fight not because they hate what's in front of them, but because what they love behind them." Because of that, the United States still remains the finest nation in the world. Today, there are forces that do not like our freedom and will do anything to bring down our way of life. They are cowards, rife with hate, and are willing to die while killing innocent lives around the world. Remember, only 0.05% of all Americans today don their uniform of their country, protecting the other 99. I call them the true 1%ers. Let's honor them today and every day. Thank you.
Starling Ledbetter, FHS sophomore, is here to perform a musical tribute to God Bless the USA. Please welcome Starling to the stage.
Thank you, Starling. May everyone please join us in a moment of silence as we remember our veterans. Remember those who have sacrificed their lives for the ideals of liberty and justice for all. Remember the prisoners of war and the missing in action. Remember that freedom is not free. Thank you.
At this time, the service songs of the armed forces will play. Please stand when you hear your service song. We are grateful each of you are here. This ceremony is for you. Today is for you.
Can we have all of our veterans please stand one more time to be recognized? Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. And can we also please give a round of applause to all of our volunteers who made this day happen? And a special thank you to Mr. LeGould and Mr. Cooper Eskew and Mr. Geen and Mr. Jacoby for being so supportive of today.
And Sarah Gardner for helping put together this program.
Thank you. Will everyone please stand for the retirement of the colors?
Color guard attention, audience attention. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Please retreat the colors. Salute. Color guard about face. Turn the post. Color guard halt, about face. Color guard dismiss. Audience saves.
Once again, I would like to thank everyone for being here today to honor our veterans. Our veterans are America's greatest heroes who have answered the call to duty. They have sacrificed their lives for the ideals and goals of our great land, the United States of America. As Americans, we must remember that freedom is not free and never forget those who have sacrificed their lives to ensure that America remains the greatest nation in the world. Thank you for being here. And to our veterans, thank you for your bravery, selflessness, and dedication. You are America's greatest heroes, and you are the best of us. Thank you. You all are dismissed.